is really good. He's really funny. I was just feeling worse and worse. I was just wanting him to dip. I wanted a low. I wanted a flat ending, and he gave it the punch at the end as well. So I hope you take away some useful things. I think Cure was inspiring and getting you to think about the right things. I probably won't have that kind of sense of inspiration. There will be elbow time, lots of elbow time. I've got that planned in. And I'm just a teacher. I'm a subject leader of English in York, and I am really just a teacher. I've got nearly full timetable. What I do is I write a blog, and that's why I've been invited to this. In the last year, almost exactly a year, I've started writing a blog, and it's just been reflecting, kind of stealing all the things that I've learned in 10 years of teaching, kind of bringing them together. And this session is about kind of becoming a better teacher, and some of the things I've done in the last year, some of the things I've focused in on that have helped me become better. I do think this teachers doing it for themselves kind of aspect of self-improvement really is I'm preaching to the converted, because you are deciding to take an evening and to come here. Some of you have travelled. I've come from York. And the whole Teachmeet movement, and Clevedon seems to be like a big daddy of it, but the whole Teachmeet movement's a real positive sign about seizing CPD rather than kind of waiting for it to happen to us. And hopefully this session you can go away with some ideas about what you can do individually to seize your own development, maybe some people in your department, in your school, and not kind of wait for answers from someone else. Quick. Excellent. Can we give him a little round of applause? He's actually really funny and witty. Because he kind of made a few sarky comments to me, and that was just on the way up. If he says anything, don't laugh. I don't know getting out of place. This quotation, I'm kind of strange kind of room setup. There's a settee over there for when I'm starting to struggle a bit. This is a quotation from Dylan William that I went to the SSAT conference last year. It was in Liverpool. And I've never been to a conference before that, but it was 10 minutes away from my mum and dad's house, so I really wanted to go to it. And Dylan did a keynote speech. And this quotation, I wrote it down really quickly, and then I tweeted it, and then 100 teachers retweeted it. And a year later, that's the only thing I can kind of think of, in my department meetings, and I'm thinking of that, I'm marking, and I'm thinking of that. It's not this kind of, this morning, Mr. Wilshaw, you're not, we're not doing enough for, gifted and talented students, that kind of negative, we're not good enough. It's this actually wanting to be better for all the right reasons, because we can be better. He's a bit slow, actually. The next couple of slides are about CPD. I don't want to be critical of CPD. I'm part of it myself. I give sessions in my school about training and trying to improve. But the reality of CPD is that it will never be enough to transform teacher quality. It won't be enough. Practically, it won't be enough time. The scale of it. In my school, we've got a sixth form. We've got about 100 teachers and 1,400 students. That scale, that almost lack of differentiation, almost, will never quite fit to make sure everyone really develops into highly performing teachers, because we'll have to really do it for ourselves. That will make the difference and see genuine improvement. And just this, I've nicked this from Teacher Development Trust. He's allowed me to take it, David Weston. The scale of school budget spent on training is very little. And I think I'm a school that's quite forward-thinking. We're doing very good things with training. But still, I don't think that collection of hours will be enough, and we need to constantly look at how we improve it. This is interesting. The Teacher Development Trust actually researched about the impact of CPD. I don't quite know how you do that really realistically, really effectively. But there's lots of lovely kind of evidence. And it threw up this one slide. I was thinking, wow, that's obviously intentionally, grabbing you, that it's not transformative. It does have an impact, and it can change elements of schools, but it doesn't transform teaching. So if CPD and this kind of large, imperfect model, no matter how we try to improve it, can't really transform us as teachers, then we have to transform ourselves and transform the people in our department and work together as critical friends. People read things like Malcolm Gladwell, that kind of 10,000 hours and we become an expert, kind of outliers, and kind of that idea of just practice. Once you do 10,000 hours, you become an expert. And it's interesting because I've been a teacher for 10 years, so I'm kind of at that point, and I should be an expert. But I think there's a lot of teachers, in my school who've taught for 10 years or more, and they're not as expert as other teachers. So it's not just about that practice of if you just keep on doing it, you will get better and better and better. Because if you're not practicing in specific ways, you won't improve. And I think there's too much, that kind of almost famous quote about, some people can teach for 20 years, but they can teach 1 year 20 times. And there's that how we practice. I do think, and some things I'll explore about my kind of personal way of practicing in the last year have really changed. And I think that's important. There's this idea of the OK plateau. I wrote about it on my blog, and I wrote about it just on a Guardian kind of teacher network thing. The OK plateau is the concept of after 2 or 3 years, and we literally have all been there, after 2 or 3 years, we all have developed those core, that huge improvement we make of being able to manage a class. After the second year, you're able to get them to listen to you and kind of do the things you want them to do. And we've made massive strides really quickly. In that first year, those first 6 weeks, we make so many improvements, and it's all quite rapid. Obviously, everybody loves it, rapid progress. But then after a couple of years, we do set into a pattern, and that can be a very good thing. We develop really good habits, but those habits can actually harden, and it can be very hard to shake out of those teacher habits. And we can try new strategies, and we can go to a Teachmeet and find 1 or 2 great new strategies. But it actually will be very hard to really, truly embed that practice into what we do. Okay? Now, the OK plateau, there's evidence from, I can't remember exactly, Hanshek and Kane, I think it is, a lot of kind of American research to say that after 3 years, the impact of teacher experience stops. Okay, the difference between the teacher in their first year and third year is quite significant. But beyond that third year, that improvement, that kind of impact stops, and that many teachers plateau. Okay, now the next slide, this is the first elbow time bit. I think very personally, after my first 3 years, my first year was a real struggle. And I'm in quite a nice school, but I really struggled in my first year with a whole host of issues. In the second year, I think I made rapid improvements. In the third year, I think I was still making big strides. I think between year 4 and 9, I don't think I improved very much at all. I think at the time I thought I was pretty good. I thought I was happy with it. I didn't have a sign. But it was going well, I thought. But I actually, pretty much sure I think I plateaued for about 5 years. Okay, and I was waiting for the next training day, and I had a few great training days and had maybe 1 strategy. But if I reflect on it now, I don't think I changed as a teacher. I don't think I really improved a great deal. I just want to debate that, because it could be a bit kind of negative thinking. Well, are you saying that I'm not that great? I'm not saying that, but I think my personal experience is that I plateaued, and I just like a bit of elbow time. I'm going to call it that now, was it? Just think about, in your career, do you feel there's a point that you plateaued? Do you think that there's a certain way that you moved out to that? And in 2 minutes' time, I'll just ask for some answers. Now, it's quite a personal thing, but as I'm standing up here pouring out my heart, you're going to do the same. So just a couple of minutes just to chat with your elbow partner about that concept.
Yes, definitely. No, that's you. I might move. Yeah, that's just you. Just do it as a table. That's a good idea. Yeah. it's difficult to change things and do things differently. It's quite fun, isn't it? But I've had exactly the same experience. But I think quite often you sort of you hear something and then you are trying to be a different teacher, and I think there's something to be said for having a little bit of faith in yourself as well. It's not necessarily flattering to have your own style, but I've definitely plateaued loads of times.
I feel like it's a bit when you get comfortable, and I've been at the same school for 5 years, and the first challenge behaviour is quite challenging. Naming that behaviour, got it right. Year 1 was learned, made mistakes. Year 2, learned from them. Thought I had a really good year 2, and then year 3 was that time. Year 3 and 4, I sort of was content that I felt like after year 2, yes, I can teach lessons, I can manage it, so I'm not.
It's like your power years.
Yeah, I realise actually I'm forgetting the things I did well at that point.
I'm just speaking to Charlie, and I was asking, do you like it when teachers go around and interview with your group and chat, and no one likes it, so I like to go round to your group. Now, does anyone feel brave enough to speak? I don't know your names. Normally, I know your name and I would make you speak. So, I wouldn't have that kind of, no, I'm not going to look at him, I'm not going to answer him. Does anyone want to kind of talk about kind of personal experience about kind of, yeah?
I'll go so I don't get picked. Yeah, I'm 5 years into teaching. I taught at the same school. And the first year I sort of learned from my mistakes. It was challenging behaviour, so first thing is I wanted to nail that. And then once I nailed it, year 2, I thought, yeah, I can go in now and I can teach. And it got to that point I was getting good observations and things like that. And I got to the end of year 2, I thought, wow, I've had a really good year. Now I got to year 3 and 4, and that's when I think I just became a little bit, I don't know, complacent in that sort of, because you felt comfortable in terms of what you were doing. You were winning round nearly all of your classes, and you were getting the results you wanted. And then it was this year where we had Ofsted, and it just made me, but it kick-started me to go, actually, I need to really think about progress in my lessons. And then suddenly this year it's changed. But that was my plateau, was those 3 and 4, when you think you're doing all right. And you just need someone to give you a kick up the backside.
It's interesting about you saying about being at the one school as well. My experience is at the one school 10 years, which kind of maybe isn't quite the norm anymore. It's kind of, if you want to get on, you move every 2 or 3 years. And I've been at the same school, and that kind of maybe that's contributed to the sense of comfort. And there's a great thing about the comfort of habit. And I'll talk about kind of habit forming, but later on. There's a real kind of pleasure in it, and that's we don't want to get out of that comfort zone. So is there anyone else?
Yes, like a lack of challenge really. So particularly we'll say, I think probably primary, that if you're like in the same school for a long time or the same year group, and so you're teaching that because you teach the same kids day after day, and if you're staying in that year group, then you do get into that sort of comfort zone really. So you need a bit of challenge to sort of
so making yourself kind of move out the comfort, out of the pleasure of it.
We were just saying what a difference Twitter had made to things that we do and things that we try. And I've been teaching 24 years, and I knew that I'd got into a bit of a rut when students would come in, and I'd sort of say to them, it'll all go round again. And I thought, oh my God, that's what the old teachers used to say when I started. Oh my God, I can't. So I've tried not to be like that.
I really didn't want to do the Twitter is amazing kind of talk. It is part of the reason why in the last year or so I've progressed, because I've moved into that kind of strange, weird Twitter world where you kind of know people and don't know people, and you go to a place like this and you kind of know people, you don't know people. And I do what it's actually done. It's kind of made me procrastinate at times, but actually at other times it's made me read far much more and reflect far much more than I ever would. That's something I'll talk about a little later on. And Twitter's done that, kind of the Twitter, the blog aspect kind of is this kind of, it is CPD, but just completely in a new way that didn't used to occur. And what it does, it's taken me out of my school. It's taken me out of that comfortable place. And there are cynics in your own school, and there are people, everyone's got their own little role and they're comfortable playing it, but then you go on Twitter and people are trying all these things, and I'll say a bit later